Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, June the 21st, 2016. Good to have you out here, our first and only show of this week. We have a lot to do. We have a jam-packed show on this. Right now, obviously, yesterday, the first day of summer, so now we are firmly into summer here. Um, Hope your week is treating you well. Um, And as always, before we get going, I want to remind you all of the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411, hashtag ITS5, which of course represents the 5th anniversary on here as a podcast, or you can create your own hashtag depending on what you're referring to, or maybe what we're talking about while you're tweeting. If it's about wrestling, you might do hashtag ITS wrestling, basketball, hashtag ITS basketball, whatever you want to do. Just don't be disrespectful or insulting. Be creative, have fun, but don't be disrespectful. That's all we ask. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. Make sure you like our page upon finding it. Okay, before we get going, and again, this is our first and only show of this week. Before we get going, a couple of sad acknowledgments that are far more important than anything else we're going to talk about here on the show tonight. Over the last week, we lost two names that I want to make sure that we mention. Lon Lester. Many people, I don't know, for those of you that have seen Varsity Blues, Good Burger, and Not Another Teen Movie. Those are among his roles. TV show Popular. Lon Lester passed away at the age of 45 last week. Very, very good, charismatic actor, character actor, tremendous talent. It was a big shock last week losing him. He played Billy Bob, he played Billy Bob in Varsity Blues. It's a sad, sad, sad situation. He died of liver and kidney failure, so we want to make sure that we acknowledge his passing. Again, a horrible loss. I mean, and 40s are very young. That is young. But we want to acknowledge his passing, which took place last week. May he rest in peace. And again, our prayers, thoughts, and condolences go out to his family, friends, loved ones, and fans. That, again, a huge loss. Lon Lester passing away at the age of 45 last week. Also, and I'm sure my co-host will speak of this as well. And one other thing I mentioned about Lon Lester, I apologize for going backwards here, but at one point he had lost a lot of weight. He lost, I think it was like 349 pounds. He had struggled with weight at one point, and he was just trying to get healthier. And again, just a tremendous talent, very good character actor. So again, our condolences, thoughts, and prayers to his family, and may he rest in peace. That's why I make sure I note that, because it was tremendous, him losing all that weight, and that was a tremendous accomplishment, and he was a tremendous talent. So he will be missed. Also, obviously, a huge shock, and again, as I mentioned, my co-host will probably talk about this at length as well. Anton Yelchin. Who many probably know for his role in the new Star Trek movies, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. He passed away at the age of 27 on Sunday in a car accident. He was pinned by his vehicle to the gate of his home. It was a freak accident. He played Pavel Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot series. Very promising young actor. He's had a lot of career accomplishments so far. Again, most notably, his role as Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot series. He was born to a Russian Jewish family. Relocated to the United States as an infant. In the late 90s, was appearing in various television roles, Hollywood movies. Hearts of Atlantis, Along Came a Spider. He was in the Steven Spielberg miniseries Taken. He later appeared on Huff and starred in Terminator Salvation, Charlie Bartlett, Fright Night, Like Crazy, Smurfs, Only Lovers Left Alive. Obviously, Star Trek Into Darkness, and then of course we'll have Star Trek Beyond, which will be coming out this July, which will be sadly his last film. And no doubt they'll dedicate it to him, I'd imagine. Very talented actors, worked with a lot of really. I mean, this is an actor that was really going to be, and you're going to hear from him quite often. And it was a standout in the Star Trek movies, but just also a very classy, funny, funny man. If you ever watch his interviews, very charismatic. Um, sometimes brutally honest and blunt, but funny. Just a funny, charismatic guy, and so young, 27 years old, in a freak accident at his home, and just a tremendous, tremendous talent. J.J. Abrams has written a note about his loss, and there's been countless celebrity comments about it. Just a promising young actor that was taken way, way too soon. And as I bring my co-host Mike in on here, who's now in the spotlight, I'm sure Mike, you'd like to talk about Anton Yelchin, who we lost on Sunday.
Yeah. Anton Yelchin, 27 years old. Good Lord. Anton Yelchin was he's most well known for the Star Trek, where he was the new Chekhov. And he brought the character back to life, playing Pavel Chekhov. He was one of the, and you know what? I've always been a fan of the new Star Trek, the movies, and then they get mixed. They get a mixed kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
They get mixed reviews and everything, but I've always been a fan of them, and he's always been one of the highlights of the new Star Trek. I mean, he's done a surprising amount of movies. Hearts of Atlantis. He was good in Alpha Dogs. Charlie Bartlett. I haven't seen it, but I know it was all right. Terminator Salvation was a thing. He was in the Smurfs, movie 43. Odd Thomas. He was really, really good in Odd Thomas, which is based off the Dean Koontz book, Odd Thomas. He was a phenomenal actor. He's not just a phenomenal young actor. He was a phenomenal actor. And by all accounts, he was a very, very nice guy. He was a very, very welcoming and warm person. And for Hollywood, who has had so many just losses this year, this is another blow, especially for young Hollywood, because this guy was set for a huge career. He already had a very, very notable career. And it's just, it was an accident. It was an accident. It was God, you know what? It's just reading it,
Mm-hmm.
Just reading of the Jeep Grand Cherokee that was supposedly supposed to be recalled, and did not respond as expected. An occupied vehicle could roll away under power unexpectedly, which is exactly what happened. So, Fiat Chrysler is in some bit of shit now. They're in a lot of shit because of this one, but this was a big loss, and for the young Hollywood and for Star Trek, for the Star Trek community, because how many more of these movies were they going to make? Depending on how well this one did, they could add another one. And I don't mean to stop and start, but it's hard to kind of verbalize, because this was just an awful, unexpected loss, and and I cannot believe, to his mother and father who have to kind of survive this, like their son was taken away. Just why? You know, to his mother, father's friend, family and friends, we can only, pray. We can only kind of just feel their, we feel their grief. You can only just support them in this hard time. This was rough, and I will say this: the previous Scotty, not the previous Scotty. The previous Chekhov, I should say. Previous Chekhov. What's his name? Walter Koenig. Koenig. I can never say his name right. Unfortunately, I mean, he's still alive. But he experienced the loss of his son. Son or daughter. He experienced the loss of a child too. So he's kind of experiencing what the new Chekhovs. Lost his son. They're kind of experiencing what the new Chekhov. His parents are kind of going through now. It's a really, really sad situation. You can only pray for everybody involved.
Yes. Yes, our thoughts and our prayers are with the family and the fans. I mean, there's huge a lot of fans for him, and our condolences. It's just a sad thing. May he rest in peace. I mean, a freak accident. I mean, it's a sad thing. 27 years old, and like you said, he's had numerous credits already. But he really, I mean, just in the last, since the Star Trek movies is when he finally, really started getting a lot more mainstream attention. But he's always done great work. And again, as you mentioned too, and I did too as well. He's like you said, everything you've heard has been great. He's a classic guy. If you've ever seen his interviews, a lot of charisma, very fun, very fun guy. And it's just really, really sad. That is a horrible loss, and he will be missed. That's just a sad, tragic story. Okay. Now, again, this is when we move on, and everything else is like trivial compared to what we just talked about. But we move on, and we do have a lot tonight. We really didn't until there was some breaking news out of WWE this afternoon, which we have to talk about here tonight because it's our only show of the week. And that is the latest news about Roman Reigns' suspension, which we'll talk about later in the show because that is huge news. And there's a lot of things to dissect there. And we'll talk about them along with the fallout from Money in the Bank and Monday Night Raw later on in the show. We're not going to. If you're looking for a lot of entertainment tonight, you ain't going to get it. We're basically just going to do the box office beat, and if anybody has any TV highlights, that's it. So that's all we're going to do on the entertainment side of things tonight. On the sports side of things, really it's just going to be basketball. We're going to preview the NBA draft, and we're not, again, we don't do this huge drawn out preview, but we kind of give you a general overview. There's not as many storylines going into this draft as there have been in years past, so we don't really need to discuss many. So there's that. NBA Finals, we'll wrap up our discussion of that, wrap up the NBA season. A lot of you have been asking if we're going to talk about the U.S. Open. There really isn't anything to talk about. It was a pretty, obviously the weather played a role, delayed everything. There really wasn't a whole lot of excitement there. Congratulations to Dustin Johnson on his first major win. I'm happy for him. He's a great. I always enjoyed watching him. But really, there's not a lot of storytelling there, so there's really not much to talk about there. So there's nothing we're going to do with that. So really, our sports stuff is going to be just NBA related, as I mentioned, entertainment very quickly, and then we'll do some wrestling, and that'll be the show tonight. And again, this is our only show of the week. We will not have a show Thursday due to the NBA draft. Our next show will be a week from tonight, next Tuesday, in which it'll be the same kind of deal again. It'll be our only show of the week, sports, entertainment, wrestling. So entertainment, box office beat, any TV highlights. Sports wise, we'll do a post draft kind of deal. We might split that in half, depends on how many things happen of interest. We'll do our post-NBA draft discussion, maybe do a little bit of baseball, and then obviously any wrestling stuff we have to cover. And that'll be our only show next week, and that will be our last show for 2 weeks pretty much. So, because then the week after that, we will not air. We will be preempted. So next Tuesday will be our last show until, I believe, July the 12th. So keep that in mind. So one show this week, one show next week, and then the week after, no shows at all. And then we come back that following Tuesday, and then we'll be back into a somewhat of a normal schedule for probably about a month, and then we'll take some more time off. And then we'll also start the process for the In the Spotlight TV Awards upon our return after our little 2-week break as well. So keep that in mind going forward too. All right, so with all that being said, let us get going here as we look and we start off in the NBA as the NBA season and the NBA Finals came to a dramatic end on Sunday night, I should say, pardon me, Father's Day, which is many a times we've seen the Finals end on Father's Day, on a night where there was so much going on since in sports. You had WWE doing their Money in the Bank pay-per-view, then you had this and. Biggest rating for an ABC NBA game ever, and rightfully so. It's a Game 7. I think we talked about this last week, how it felt like this series was going to be a lot like the Oklahoma City Golden State series because it was getting better as it went. It was a series of swings. The first 2 games were dominated by Golden State. Next 2 games were the next game dominated by Cleveland. Then Golden State dominates Game 4. Then Cleveland dominates Game 5 and Game 6. It was a series of dominant. That's really what these playoffs were about. And that's why these playoffs were lacking. The NBA did have some good series. There were some 7 games and everything, but none of these games were aside from a few, were ever competitively close. They were always, one team would do well one game, next game they crap the bed. That was kind of your pattern this entire postseason, right on into the finals. Until Game 7, when finally we had a back-and-forth game right down to the wire where Kyrie Irving makes the biggest shot in Cleveland sports history and sends them to the NBA championship. And, we talked about this last week, I think if you look back at this, and obviously, I made a big point last week about the Draymond Green suspension and how I felt like I hated that suspension because it gave Golden State an excuse in a lot of ways for Game 5. And then Game 6, Draymond Green comes back, does absolutely nothing. The rest of the team almost does nothing, and they get, again, Cleveland dominates. And then people are like, well, Draymond Green was missing a game. They're all out of whack, blah, blah, blah. So there's another excuse, which is preposterous, but, it is what it is. Game 7, there is no excuse. But now you hear people say, well, that suspension changed the whole course of the series. Folks, I'm a Golden State fan. I'm a Draymond Green fan, although sometimes I question it, believe me. Draymond Green's suspension, while was a huge impact on Game 5, did not change the course of the series. Golden State had 3 games to win the championship, okay? They had a 3-1 lead. This is a team that lost 9 games going into the playoffs. They lost just as many in these playoffs. There is no excuse for the way that they crapped the bed in Games 5, 6, and 7. I am sorry. There is no excuse for why they did that. You want to say, Game 5, they're all whack because they didn't have Draymond Green? Okay, fine. I'll go with that. You can go with that if you want. Fine. But what's the excuse for Game 6? Draymond Green does not score 30-something points every game, folks. He did that in Game 7, but he does not do that every game. He has his great 20-point games once in a while. But if you look at it, most of the time he scores between 10 and 15 if you're lucky. Most of the time his impact is felt on defense and rebounding. That's when you feel his impact. You don't feel his impact in the scoring column. And that's really what happened to Golden State in these games. Yes, their defense was horrible, and I do think Andrew Bogut getting hurt really did play a role. I will say that I think Andrew Bogut getting hurt did play a role in hurting their defense. Yes, in Game 6 and 7, that did hurt. There's no way, shape, or form. That's one less rim protector against a team that really likes attacking the rim. That's a huge factor. I'll give you that, but that's still not why they lost. Where was Stephen Curry? Stephen Curry was doing what what I used to accuse LeBron James of doing years ago, padding his stats. Sure, you're going to look at the lines for Game 6 and 7 and see that he might have scored between 25 and 30 points. But it was the quietest 25 and 30 points you've ever seen him score. Where was Klay Thompson? In Game 6, he played 3 great quarters, but they lost him in the fourth quarter. Okay, but where was he in Game 7? Where was this magnificent bench, which dominated the first 2 games of this series? Where did they go? Where did Harrison Barnes go? Still haven't found them. They're still looking. Somehow I think he'll be looking for his jump shot the rest of the offseason. I don't know. He seemed to lose it. All of a sudden, don't tell me Draymond Green made that much of a difference in whether Harrison Barnes made a jump shot or not, because that one has nothing to do with the other. Draymond Green doesn't even set picks for Harrison Barnes half the time. If you watch their offense, it's usually Bogut. Okay, well, Bogut was hurt. All right, well, you mean to tell me Harrison Barnes been in the league for how many years and made a career at North Carolina before he even made it to the pros on making his own shots, creating his own shots? You mean to tell me all of a sudden he forgot how to do that? I've seen Harrison Barnes since the North Carolina days. The man knows how to create his own shot. He doesn't need help. Believe me. Doesn't need help. They lost this game because their big shot makers didn't make shots. Yes, their defense crapped the bed in games 5 and 6. It awakened in game 7 a little bit. But so your defense does better. You hold them to around 90 points. But guess what? Your offense is right there with it. So what good was it? What good was it? No good. Here's the thing. When push came to shove, when their backs were against the wall, the thing that Cleveland did, what Golden State has done for the last 2 years up until this point, they made shots. Their big playmakers did what they needed to do. Their big playmakers did what they needed to do. They made shots. LeBron James made plays. He was embarrassed in game 4. He heard the voices. He was embarrassed in game 4. In the next 3 games, he did everything that LeBron James should do. And that's not a criticism. I hope people say, well, that's what he should do. Oh, what do you expect from him? No, but he did it. The point is he did it. Kyrie Irving gave you more than you ever could have imagined, and he became a superstar in this series. And yes, he had his moments in game 4, which you can all go, oh, he had his real Russell Westbrook. But difference between him and Russell Westbrook, he learned from it, and he never did it again the rest of the series. He made plays the rest of the series. He shared the ball. Cleveland did what they've been beaten. How many teams have done that beat them? They became a great passing team. They became a playmaking team. They became an explosive team. They did what the Spurs have done to them and what the Golden State Warriors done to them, and that's why they won. Great physical defense, great shot making, great play calling, and superior performances by their stars. That's why they won the series. And Golden State lost because their guys did not do that. Clear as day. And you know the celebration, LeBron crying on the court. Hey, you know what? He backed up what he said. He went back to Cleveland. He said he was going to lead them to a championship, and he did it. His career, his legacy, this win right here is his legacy and his career. He made it with this. Forget about what happened in Miami. Obviously, that's 2 rings he has. Great for him. How many MVPs he has, great for him. But this, to me, is where, in my mind, he really starts to build his legacy. In my mind, because this is something that he can really. This is his benchmark. This is a tremendous account, and to do it, be the first team to come back from 3 games to 1 down. That is something that that's a thing that nobody else can say that, and he led them. He actually led him. He made all the big shots, except for the final shot, which Irving made. He made all the big plays. This is, even if you're a LeBron hater, you can't take a damn thing away from him for this run. You cannot do that. And anybody that picked Cleveland to win this series, you had your merits to do that. Because think about it last year. Without Irving, without Love, Cleveland won 2 games against Golden State in the finals last year. Now, I know that Golden State dominated Cleveland in the regular season this year. But if you look back at last year's final, they Golden State won 4 games to 2. LeBron won 2 games on his own. You only imagine you had Kevin Love, who really didn't do much, but still he's there, and Kyrie Irving to it. You can only, there was always a solid chance that they could do this. Just that when you get down 3 games to 1, you think it's over, especially with 2 games on the road. But they did it, and you give kudos to Cleveland on this. Golden State, you had a great season. But that's what it was. It was a great season. These playoffs, they never looked right. And I know Curry was hurt, and I know, there was things going on with Green and suspension. Look, I understand that. But at the same time, this is a team that made its hay last year on, yes, Stephen Curry scoring 30 points. Yes, big shot making. But this is a team that prides itself on being a very deep team. And they did not do the job in these playoffs. Their performance was very inconsistent. And I'm sorry, but you cannot be yes, you won a championship last year. Great for you. But you're not, you have got to learn that you have got to put teams away. And you cannot you can't be up 2-0 and crap the bed in game 3 and go, we're okay. No, you don't give away games. You have to stay motivated each game. If you go out there and you give 100% effort and you still lose, fine. At least you gave 100% effort. But this is a team that never did that all the time. This is a team that would dominate for 2 games, and then all of a sudden, we're up 2-0. We can half-ass and hopefully we get it done. No, you can't be like that. You have got to play 100% every game, and they did not do that. This is a bad habit that they've had. They got by with last year because Stephen Curry was otherworldly last year, as was Klay Thompson. This year they weren't, and they got beat. And that's a storyline that you look for going into next season, that you look for over this whole season. Golden State gave you that epic regular season, but it does not matter. It's a good accomplishment, yes. It's a challenging thing to do, yes, but it does not matter. It does not matter if you don't win the championship because nobody's even going to remember it next year. Nobody's going to remember it. Nobody's going to care. I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Because you don't get that banner where it says 73-9 or whatever, and on NBA champions. You don't get that banner. There's no banners for 73-9 in the regular season. There's none. So that's your storyline for Golden State. How do they recover from this? What happens to go? What do they do? How do they view this? Is this a learning experience? Do they think about changing a piece or two? I don't think they will. I think they're going to see it as a learning experience, and I think they're going to come back hungrier next year, realize that they cannot be complacent. And hopefully Draymond Green learns a little bit more, gets a little bit more mature. And Stephen Curry realized that it's not always going to be easy and that you can't rely on the refs to make the calls. Yes, he did get screwed over by the refs at times, yes, but so did Cleveland, so did everybody. That's another thing that you take from this regular season and this especially this playoff season. The officiating was probably the worst it's ever been in the league for everybody. Don't whine just about Golden State. It's been bad for everybody. And something needs to be done about that. It was a good season. It was the playoffs themselves weren't that great. You had a great end to the Oklahoma City Golden State series. You had a great end to the finals with the Game 7 with the big shot ended by Irving and the great block by LeBron, which was a huge play. You had some great series. Nice to see Toronto do what they did. But really, this postseason was lacking. Then, of course, you had the drama in the regular season because of Kobe Bryant's final season and his epic last game, which really was probably the high point of the NBA season other than Game 7 of the finals. And then Golden State doing what they did. And that's really your story. Very lackluster outside of those things. As you look ahead to next year, no Kobe. A Cleveland Cavaliers team that finally has a championship. We'll see if LeBron can repeat. Now there's no, you've done it once. Now it's kind of it's not. I won't say it's easy because there's a target on your back, and now you're going to get everybody's best shot. Not that they never did before, but for LeBron, it's probably like, okay, I did it in Cleveland. Now I can just go out there and play, and whatever happens, happens. So you got that going. We'll see how Golden State responds. That would be huge. San Antonio, what happens with them? Let's see if all their guys come back. Obviously, outside of Golden State, Golden State and Cleveland, they were right up there. How about Oklahoma City and what they did on their first year under Billy Donovan? Kevin Durant, free agency, and Kevin Durant's going to reach free agency. It's going to be an interesting summer with that. We'll see what happens with the Olympics in the offseason. A lot of guys don't want to go play. We'll see. Chicago, will they trade Derrick Rose or Jimmy Butler? We had a lot of coaching changes. Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota. Luke Walton was announced today. Was officially announced today as the Lakers coach. Officially introduced as the Lakers coach. We'll see what changes the Lakers make. Dwight Howard, where he goes. Houston, what happens there? Tyronn Lue, obviously, is going to be extended contract-wise. That's a given. Those are among the things to look for next year and in this offseason. So, before we move on to the NBA draft stuff, Mike, any thoughts on the finals, the NBA season, the playoffs, any of that?
I have lots of thoughts on the finals, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to talk a whole bunch. The Warriors had a lot, historically, by the numbers, the greatest regular season of all time. I don't consider it that. I still think the Bulls' campaign was stronger because of the competition they had to deal with. And I don't see the competition of the current NBA being at that level. But statistically speaking, the Warriors season was historically the best regular season in the history of the NBA. Historically, they're the best. They lost 10 games all year. That sure caught up to them in the playoffs now, didn't it? Pretty quickly, too. Why do you look like you're holding in a fart?
No.
Like, ooh, I can't wait this. I can't wait this going there.
I'm not. Sorry. I don't know what face I'm making, but it's not intentional.
I will say this. It looked like you were like, they might never know I have to poop. That's your face. Sometimes farting is a good thing, Brian. You're supposed to fart. That's why your body does it.
Okay.
It's okay to fart. Your dog doesn't enough. To be fair, the Golden State Warriors did let out a huge fart in the playoffs. In the last 10 games, they escaped the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City had Golden State dead to rights. And Golden State kind of surpassed that because Oklahoma City came back down to earth. They had them dead to rights. In this series, they had the Cavaliers down 3-1. And this is without Steph Curry having a really good game. Steph Curry did not have a good series. Klay Thompson had a really good first half of the series. Steph Curry had a good game or so. But you had a good game or so. You are the MVP of the league. Steve Kerr's over there complaining like, oh, they're assaulting the MVP of the league. Yeah. And the MVP of the league ain't playing like good. He's not playing good. And I don't know. I don't like. How does the best player in the league, the single best shooter in the NBA, have such a shitty playoff? Such a shitty. He had for the MVP. That has to be the worst finals performance in those last 3 games that I've seen.
I agree.
He was gone. And I will say this: we did catch the end of the game 7. Steph Curry had 2 shots that potentially the first one could have taken the lead, the second one would have tied it. And then the third one, I think, okay, he had 3 shots. The third one, I think, would have put them down by 1. He was aiming for the foul. He couldn't sniff the rim. 3 threes couldn't sniff the rim. This is the best shooter in the league. Klay Thompson was absent. Draymond Green, and here's the thing. We talked about Draymond Green enough. Draymond, you know what? If Draymond Green is going to act immature and reckless and unthinking of his behavior, then he deserves a suspension. I don't care how many people have an issue with it. Draymond Green is the one who reacted like that. Ergo, Draymond Green is he earned it. He earned his suspension, 1 game or not. They're lucky Steph Curry wasn't suspended. For what? Didn't he hit a fan or something, or accidentally whack a fan?
He threw the mouthpiece. Well, yeah, and he immediately apologized and shook the fans. I guess it wasn't even a fan. I think it was the minority owner of the Cavs.
Oh, he threw his mouthpiece and hit the minority owner of the Cavs. Yeah, okay, that's that. He is fairly lucky that he didn't get more because he didn't get more than just his little fine. And Steve Kerr, God, that double talk, the double talking conference that earned him a fine. Man, that was good too. It's good stuff. It's like the Warriors almost imploded. They lost Harrison Barnes. Losing Andrew Bogut was probably worse than losing Curry and Thompson at times in the series.
Hmm.
I swear to God, you don't have to poop, right?
No, I don't.
You're making that face again.
I'm not making it.
This is because losing Bogut is 7 foot, 7'1", just monster.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Bogut can ball. Andrew Bogut can play in the paint, and he makes Draymond Green's life a little easier. When Bogut went down, they didn't have an advantage on the boards. They didn't have an advantage on the paint. I think Cleveland out-rebounded them for the rest of the series, both offensively and defensively. I think Cleveland beat them on the boards. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure we'll get an email if I am. Oh, well. But it came to the point where Tristan Thompson was allowed to do his thing on the boards. Kevin Love did some stuff. He rebounded the ball a little bit. Kevin Love just existed. But he got some more rebound. He actually was on the boards rebounding a little bit. LeBron James, another triple-double. Kyrie, and look, Golden State's weaknesses hurt them horrendously. They lived by the 3, they died by the 3. In 3 games, they've died by the 3. They lost Klay Thompson, they lost Harrison Barnes, they lost Steph Curry. Draymond Green showed up for exactly 1 game out of the 3, and one of those games he wasn't even allowed in the building for. He showed up for exactly 1 game. And nobody else did. They were in it. That last game, Game 7. They were in it. Their bench, the vaunted Warriors bench, did keep them in it. They did. However, in the end, you put your hope and your faith in your stars to make the big plays, and their stars didn't make the big plays. In fact, their star didn't defend Kyrie Irving well on his biggest play. Their defense allowed time to run, like precious seconds to run out. For what reason? I don't know. We had a foul to give, and they almost refused to foul him. Right. LeBron James goes to the line. Look, that was a foul that just happened, and it was a hard foul. LeBron James hits 1 of 2, and that's it. Your defense fails you. Your vaunted legendary shooting failed you. Your stars failed you. Where else could Golden State go? It's like when Steve Kerr in Game 6, when Craig Sager offered him a very viable question. I think it was like, oh, well, the Cavs are kind of decimating you here. Steve, what are you going to do? Steve Kerr just responded with, we got this. No, you didn't get it. You didn't got it. And on the other side, LeBron James does what LeBron James is always supposed to do, which was be a monster and take it over. He took it over. Kyrie Irving hit the big shot, but let's face it, they're not in that position without LeBron James.
No.
And you know what? I feel like if the Cavs had this team last year, they probably would have beaten the Warriors then too.
I agree.
Because LeBron James won 2 games by himself. He won 2 games in this series by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he and the rest of the team stepped up and won the other 2 games. So the Golden State Warriors had the best regular season in the history of the NBA, statistically speaking. And then they shit the bed, and it means nothing because they couldn't cap it off for the ring. But on the other hand, LeBron makes good. He brought his team, his city, the first title since the 60s. He brought the Cavs their first title in NBA history. He made good on his promise when he was drafted. He made good on his promise from when he came back.
Uh-huh.
Just one quick thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna stop talking. The analysts are now saying, "Oh, he's in the level with Jordan now. He's in the rarefied air with Jordan." Look, analysts, we just started liking the guy.
Back off.
Don't ruin this for us. We just started really appreciating LeBron James. Don't do this. Because here's the thing, LeBron James has been in, 6 NBA Finals now?
Mm-hmm.
He's been in 6 NBA Finals. He's only won 3 of them. He's won Finals MVP twice. Michael Jordan has been in 6 NBA Finals. He won all 6 of them. And he was Finals MVP 6 times. When it comes to playoff basketball, when it comes to regular season basketball, when it comes to basketball, there's nobody better than Michael Jordan. Doubtful that there will be somebody on the level of Michael Jordan. LeBron James, though, he can be in the discussion just as long as we always ends with, but Michael Jordan's better.
I am willing to put LeBron near Kobe if he wins a couple more championships.
At least one more for Cleveland.
At least.
Then he can be in that conversation with Kobe and Michael.
Right. But I don't think he's ever going to touch Michael, to be honest. Not in my book, but
to be fair, there aren't a lot of people who can touch Michael.
No.
Michael is in the league with Bird, Johnson,
right.
Russell.
Right.
Those are Abdul-Jabbar, legends of the game.
Right. Agreed.
The upper echelon, the top of the top. Right. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, I'll put Shaq up in that top of the top because he's the best center in the history of the game. All right, maybe it's him or Will Russell. I don't know. You choose one. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But LeBron and Kobe are that next level. They're there, but they're not there.
No.
So please, Anna, learning to appreciate him more now. Because he moved on, crowned Steph Curry the king of the world. Let us appreciate the guy's game now. All right, thank you. You may talk more now.
All right, so we obviously we can do the whole LeBron comparisons all day. We're not going to do that because we got to now move our discussion on to the future stars of the league, as the NBA draft will be taking place this coming Thursday on ESPN. One of my favorite things to watch, the NBA draft, always a fun event. And this year, although there isn't a lot of storylines, and the number one pick seems to be locked up at this point. There is still some things talked. This will probably be the shortest draft preview we ever do, and it's not because of the talent. There is a lot of talent in this draft this year. I think even more talent than last year. I think you're going to have a couple of stars in this draft this year. Last year, I didn't think we had any. I honestly didn't. I thought we had some. Okay, we had stars. We didn't have superstars. I think you have superstars in this draft this year. I don't think the number one pick is going to be that. But I do think that there are superstars in this draft. And we're going to talk about them. And I'm going to start. Obviously, you can look at mock drafts. You can look at a lot of different things. Let me get the elephant in the room out of the way first. It's been reported today that Ben Simmons has been promised by the Philadelphia Sixers that he will be the number one pick. Cue the shock and awe. There was a little bit of a late push for Brandon Ingram. There was a lot of talk that maybe that could happen because of his performance, and that was a possibility, yes. But that no longer looks to be the case, as the Sixers have apparently let Ben Simmons in on the idea that he will be the number 1 pick in Thursday's NBA draft. Look, I'm just going to get this Ben Simmons thing out of the way right now. He's a very talented player. Very, very talented player. Okay. Does he have the ability to be a superstar? He does. He has a lot to learn. Does he have the talent to be it? Yes, he does. Why do I think he won't be? Because of the attitude. And because he lacks, so far from what I've seen, and again, we have a very short sample size. Okay, he was great in high school ball and everything, but his performance at LSU last year was radically inconsistent, number one. Number two, the way he kind of basically gave up on his team. He gave up on his team. He had his mindset was all wrong. All right, I didn't like the way he carried himself. I didn't like the way he handled anything at LSU. And to me, that means that he's going to be somebody that's going to have major focus issues in the league. And that presents a problem, especially for a team like Philadelphia that's essentially rebuilding. Who knows when they're ever going to have even a winning season. You need somebody, if you're Philly, you're bringing somebody in here, hopefully with a winning mindset that's going to be committed to your franchise, and it's going to have 100% focus on not only himself getting better, but making everybody around him better. And this is somebody that never demonstrated anything close to that in his time at LSU last year. Never. And everybody, there seems to be this pale of negativity following him. I don't like it. Not in a draft that includes a player like Buddy Hield. I just don't like it. I don't think a lot of people do either. So he's going to go number 1, but I think he's going to completely flop? Absolutely not. I think he's going to show his talent. I think he's going to have some success. Do I think he's going to be a superstar on par Kevin Durant or LeBron James or anything like that? No. No. Could he be a Russell Westbrook kind of talent? I guess. Maybe. It's a possibility. I could actually see him more on the level of Rudy Gay, to be honest. I could see that. Maybe a smidge better than that. Maybe more multi-dimensional than that. So now, obviously, there's always the focus on the number 1 pick. The draft order, just let me give you all a little sense of the draft order. The Sixers go first, the Lakers second, Celtics by way of a trade with the Nets go third, Suns fourth, Timberwolves fifth, Pelicans 6th, Nuggets 7th, Kings 8th, Raptors via trade with the Knicks 9, Milwaukee Bucks 10. Those are your top 10 as far as the draft goes. Now, obviously, a thing that always happens with these drafts is always trade. Trade rumors. There's a lot of trade rumors out there. Also, you got to keep in mind any free agency issues that might arise. Like Kevin Durant might leave Oklahoma City. Well, Oklahoma City's probably going to want to go get somebody either by trade or draft. So maybe they get involved in something if they have some ideas. Roy Howard opted out of his contract with the Rockets despite their efforts, which is no shock. So you could always, have that in play. You got to start. You think about these things. There's a lot of talk that the Bulls might move Jimmy Butler. Then maybe they go draft somebody to replace Butler. Minnesota's going to. Tom Thibodeau's going to be high. They're probably going to go. We all know the kind of player Tom Thibodeau likes. It's more of a defensive player. Guy can play defense, two-way basketball. So they'll be in on a lot of those kind of players. You look in the draft, there's quite a few of those. So you do have to think about those things involved here too. When you're thinking about the draft, because obviously those decisions and those moves can obviously have a tremendous impact on the draft. Now, as you look around, you've probably seen quite a few mock drafts, quite a few ideas on who will go second, third, whatever. There's been rumors that the Lakers are going to try to move up and get 2 top 5 picks. Again, they have the second pick. They're dangling apparently D'Angelo Russell. There's obvious reasons for why they're doing that. But they are doing that. So, What does that mean? I don't know. Will it happen or not? If it does, it'll probably happen late or right before the draft. Obviously, there's always international players. Last year, they weren't as much of an impact on the draft. This year, I would probably suggest that maybe you might see it on par with last year, where you don't see them have as much of an impact, but they will have an impact. Obviously, and that's, I don't think that really shocks anybody. To see that happen, they always do. And again, Mike hates the whole stash and cash deal. Whenever they do go get an international player and they just don't do anything with them, and then they end up letting him go anyway, never getting a chance to play over here, wasting roster spots when there's guys out there. And usually it's the 4-year players that suffer the most because of that. We didn't see, again, too many of that last year, but that could very well. I mean, I don't anticipate it being an issue, like a situation. I don't anticipate it increasing this year. I think it'll be pretty much the same as last year, the rate in which international players are drafted or stashed, so to speak. Sorry about that. I didn't turn my sound off. If I can ever freeze this, hang on. Okay, sorry. You got CBS on the background there. I apologize for that. You gotta love these sites that don't even put their that automatically play their videos when you're not supposed to. Yeah. So, all right. So obviously, most people assume that Brandon Ingram will go second. Many people consider him the second best prospect in this draft. Again, not another play. I'm a Duke fan. I've watched Brandon Ingram. I'm not a huge fan of Brandon Ingram. So I'm not 100% on board with that. I'd rather see. I think he has a little bit more upside than Ben Simmons. Yeah, maybe a little, but again, it's apples and oranges. It's a lot of it's the wingspan, a lot of it's the height. That's pretty much the only extent of it. Now you have now the question's going to be this: if the Lakers do make a trade, okay, how far up in the draft do they end up going? Now they got the second pick. A lot of people think they're targeting the 4th pick in the top 5, trying to get at least up that high. I don't know if D'Angelo Russell will be enough to get them that high, unless they do some kind of sign and trade deal or something. I don't even know what could get them that high. So I don't even know. But again, if they get involved, then that could shift everything. But it's generally speaking, Brandon Ingram looks like he'll be going to the Lakers. Chris Dunn, in a lot of moves, a lot of people's boards, has moved up to the 3rd spot. I think Chris Dunn, to me, has the ability to be a superstar in this league. Okay, he's 6'4", he's a bigger point guard, and that's really where this league is going, towards wing players, guards that are bigger, that are combo guards type deals. Chris Dunn, kind of that, and he can score. Chris Dunn can flat out score. You see what Kyrie Irving's done. You see what Russell Westbrook has done. That is kind of what Chris Dunn is. So Chris Dunn, to me, if Boston apparently might get him. If Boston gets him, boy, already good team is going to get even better. That's a steal for them if they end up with Chris Dunn. If I were the Lakers, I would take him in a heartbeat. Because he's that kind of player. To me, he has a chance to be a superstar in the league. Buddy Hield looks like he's going to go 5 to the Timberwolves. He's a good two-way player. He'll play good for Tom Thibodeau. He'd fit right in there. I think that'd be a good spot for him. Phoenix would be great to have. Phoenix would love to have him too. He'd fit right in with their offensive style. But again, I think he's not. Generally, I think Buddy Hield's kind of on the lower end of the top 5, which I think is unfair. But if you look at the rest of the lottery, the way it looks, I'm not going to go over every pick. If you're looking at it, you're looking at players like DeJounte Murray from Washington, Domantas Sabonis from Gonzaga, who I've never been really high on, But again, there's very few post players in this draft. If you're a team that's looking for a post player, he's one of the top gets. One player that's really come up on a lot of boards and has been moving up quite quickly is Wade Baldwin out of Vanderbilt. Again, on par with the bigger kind of point guardish players, so that's probably why. He averaged around 14 points a game last year. Might be a good get. You got Scar Robissier from Kentucky, who, in my mind, didn't really show you last year what he could do. He's 7 foot, power forward center. Again, very few big name post players in this draft. So if you're looking for post players, you got him. You got Sabonis. You got Jaylen Brown from California, who can go. He's 6'7". You got Marquise Chris from Washington. Washington might do very well in this draft. Malachi Richardson, for us SU fans, right now a lot of people have him near that. Some people have him in the lottery, but right now most people have him around 17 or 18. You're going to Memphis or Detroit. Again, you're on par with that bigger type guard forward, small, or in that case, smaller forward kind of deal. He's 6'6" for a shooting guard, shooting forward. That's very unique, and he showed the potential to score 15 to 20 a game. So that's a huge talent to have. Denzel Valentine, who in many people's minds is dropping towards dropping near the bottom end of the top 25. I think he's a steal. I think he's a tremendous player. At 6'6", average almost 20 points a game. Whoever gets that, now if he drops to Charlotte or Atlanta or even Boston, he's going to help them right. He's going to help you right. He's a senior. He's a tough matchup. He's a tremendous shooter. Boy, would Golden State like to get their hands on him because he fits right in there. To me, he'd be a steal out of the top 20. Bryce Johnson, I'm really shocked that he's going towards the end of the first round. Bryce Johnson, to me, if he goes at the end of the first round, even the second round, that is a steal. That guy can rebound the ball. He's a good two-way player. He can shoot the ball. He is a steal. If he goes to Golden State, he'll really help them. A lot of people think he's going to Golden State, so that would be huge. Chinano Onuaku, I've seen a lot of people high on him as a mid-second round pick. He could be a good mid-second round pick, but again, I think we really didn't see enough from him last year at Louisville to really know. I mean, when he dominated, but that, again, very inconsistent there. Malcolm Brogdon, I think, again, senior. I think he's going to be a steal in the second round. I think he's a great two-way player. He's a guy, boy, I bet you Tom Thibodeau is going to want to get his hands on him. Malcolm Brogdon's a great player for a Tom Thibodeau team. Very solid player out of Virginia. Outside of that, I expect Michael Benajay and Gary Payton, the second, will go late second round. Those will be two guards. Michael Benajay is a 6'7" guard. He might end up moving up the boards because of that, because he can score. He scored 17.5 points a game, and he's a bigger combo guard. That might be what gets him up further in the draft. Gary Payton, the second, is more of a conventional point guard, but he's getting a lot of raves, so I expect him to go. I think he'd be a steal. Benajay is going to be a steal because he can help you now. Cat Barber and Isaiah Whitehead, I think, are steals. And those are all numerous second-round guys. Two more things, and I'll shut up. As far as international players go, there's not a whole lot from my perspective that I'm high on, okay? I would look out for Dragon Bender. He's expected to go to Denver. He looks like he could be a special prospect. He'd be the top-notch high one. Juan Hernan Gomez, he's another one. Ivica Zubac. Those would be the three that I would look for that seem to have the best skill set. To maybe do well in the league, and again, that people might think have a good skill set on. I mentioned some of the people, the players I thought would be steals later in the draft. If I was going to draft, if I was going to take 5 guys in this draft, okay, I always look for superstars. So these are going to be my 5 people I would take and the 5 players that I think have the potential to be superstars. I'm going to combine the 2. Buddy Hield, Chris Dunn, Denzel Valentine, Bryce Johnson, and I'm not going to say Malcolm Brown. I don't think he could be a superstar. He could be a star, though. Definitely he can be a star. I'll say Brogdon. I can see Brogdon with the right system becoming a superstar. Those would be my 5. Mike, your thoughts. Go ahead.
Oh, geez. My thoughts. I don't even know which one I was looking at for this. As I was looking at some of the draft stuff, I don't remember what app I was on. As sad as that may be, I don't remember the app I was on. Was it on this thing? I might have been. Yes, it was. Hey, I found it. Sweet. Do I think Ben Simmons is a sure thing? No. Do I think Ben Simmons is going to be a star in the league? No. Do I think Ben Simmons is going to be of any use in Philadelphia? No. But then again, no player in Philadelphia is of any use at this point in time. Brendan Ingram. Do you remember him from Duke? Because I don't. Chris Dunn. He was the guy who scored a lot of points in Providence. Yeah, he's got a legitimate chance, especially since the Celtics are looking to rebuild, and that's a coach there. And what's his face? The guy who looks really young from Butler.
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens, and that's a player Brad Stevens could use. The mock draft I'm looking at has him going 3rd to Boston. But anybody who picks this kid up is they're in for it because he's a star right now. I don't remember Jaylen Brown or Jamal Murphy. I am told they're from California and Kentucky. Buddy Hield is probably the best player in this draft. He's probably the best scorer in this draft. Outside of that one time in the Final Four where he was totally lost on offense, the kid can just straight go. And in the NBA, if he can get with a team that won't lose him on the offensive end, the kid will just straight go. Buddy Hield's ready for the big time. I don't know who Dragan Bender is, but I'm told he's from Croatia. That's nice. Skipping. Malachi Richardson's allegedly going in the top 20. Good for him. He needs to get with the right team, and he needs a couple of years. It probably would have benefited him to come back to Syracuse, like his draft stock, but it's hard to say if he would have gone up anymore. So, but he is a project in the making. Bryce Johnson, Demetrius Jackson, they had solid senior, junior years, respectively. It's sad that they're going so low, but hey, they might have a chance. I agree with you. Buddy Hield is the best player in this draft. I think Chris Dunn from Providence, because when I thought, hey, Chris Dunn, who's that guy? And then I saw that he played for Providence, like, oh, it's that guy. So I think he's got a chance. I don't know. I hope our boy from Syracuse, Benajay, kind of sneaks his way into the first round. Maybe he could be. Excuse me, I apologize. He could be a player that would work well. Definitely at Golden State or San Antonio or Phoenix. Mostly Phoenix. But I hope he sneaks in the first round somewhere. But the draft should be some sort of experience, and I will surely not regret staying past the first round. All right.
All right. We will have a post-draft analysis. Obviously, like I said, after the draft, we always do. In fact, we do more with the post-draft than we do the pre-draft because there's always, again, there's always usually there's more storylines after the fact than there is going in. Usually, there's more going in. This year, there isn't a whole lot. But we will do a post-draft analysis. We'll start. We start that on next Tuesday's show. If there's not a whole lot to talk about, we might be able to get it all in next week. If there is, then we'll obviously have to split it up. But we will do a post-draft analysis starting next week, so we can look forward to that. Maybe I'll even do a couple of Facebook and Twitter posts reacting to the draft on Thursday night live, because it should be exciting. And there is a lot of talent in this draft. We didn't even talk about a lot of there's so many other players that could really help some teams. So we'll see if any trades go down pre or post. There hasn't been any. I haven't heard anything that's really got a lot of tractions. That's why we didn't really talk about a lot in-depth trades and stuff that could happen. I haven't heard a lot of rumors out there that have traction other than the little ones I mentioned, and a lot of them are more vague. So, but yeah. So we'll talk about any trades that go down, any movement of any kind, and obviously the picks themselves and all that stuff in our post-draft analysis after the draft. Again, that will start next Tuesday on our show next Tuesday. So. All right, so that's it. We finally got to the end of the sports content, the NBA content, which is basically all NBA. That's all it really was. So we finally move on from that now, and we move on to entertainment, and we move on to a box office beat. Okay, let's be honest here. Okay, we knew going into this weekend that both the new releases were going to do incredibly well. We knew that there was the potential for Finding Dory to do something special. Spoiler alert, it did. It broke several animated box office records. Several animated box office records. Obviously number one finish for the weekend and a record opening for an animated feature. Made 136.1 million estimated for the weekend in 4,305 theaters. Obviously, not since Toy Story have we seen that for a Pixar film, especially for a sequel. Just did tremendous. It had the largest. Dory had the largest single day and opening day for an animated film, with opening day totaling 54.9 million, including the opening day total at 9.2 million in Thursday previews, which is a record for an animated movie. It beat Shrek the Third's previous records. It opened with $50 million for overseas for a global opening record of $186.2 million. Tremendous opening weekend and a record breaker for an animated film. Now, that's not shocking. We all said that the potential was there for it. If you look at statistics, it is their most popular character, that being Nemo. So there you go. I mean, the word of mouth and that momentum. You know, the box office for many people has been kind of down the last few weeks. You know, you haven't had an animated movie really since Zootopia that people were anticipating. So the recipe was there for this. So, and then, as I said, we thought that the two big releases could do big things. Well, Finding Dory obviously did, but so did Central Intelligence. Now, for many, they're going to look at its estimated $34.5 million a weekend and go, wow, that doesn't seem good for The Rock and Kevin Hart. That is a tremendous number, given how many theaters it had versus Finding Dory, the competition that's already out, even if the competition the holdovers didn't do as well this weekend. It was a very good opener. And it's going to have legs. It's much like Finding Dory got it got A minus in score. Dory got A. It's got good legs. It's got good legs to it. People enjoyed it. It had good word of mouth. So it's well on its way. Okay, these comedies have smaller budgets. With its international growth and such, it'll be just fine. So both new releases doing well, very well. Finding Dory with the record breaker, which again is not a surprise. Central Intelligence, maybe you thought it could do a little better, but again, it was right in that realm of where you would think it could do. So no issues there. No issues there. Now, outside of the two new releases, what happened to the holdovers? Not good. Even though because the new releases, business was up over the last few weeks, but the holdovers did not do particularly well. Outside of The Conjuring, which did 14.8 million, a 63% drop. Mike, I'm going to throw to you real quick. I have to go do something. Hang on just a sec.
Oh, okay. This is unexpected. Yeah. So The Conjuring made 14 million, 63% drop. Not surprising. Horror movies are usually front loaded, as in the first week. Now You See Me 2 only made a little less than 10 million, 9.3, bringing its domestic total to 41, but it's pulling into close to 100 million worldwide. So that movie's inching towards profitability. Warcraft with its $38 million, $39 million budget or domestic gross. Again, you think that movie, it hasn't done well here domestically. However, its worldwide total is 379 million. So deal with it. It's doing well. It gained 6 theaters, 70% drop from last week. It's not great. X-Men, its fourth week, only suffered a 46.5% drop. They got 5 million. Ninja Turtles got a little bit more than 5 million. And that's really, those are all the movies over 5 million. So the box office, as Brian noted, didn't do super good. Else Through the Looking Glass continues to disappoint. However, considering its foreign gross, its worldwide total is 237 million. So Alex Through the Looking Glass somehow has found profitability through its worldwide gross. However, not the strongest box office. However, it was the top 3 movies kind of carried it. Even though Now You See Me 2 did pretty good, it's almost to, I think it is profitable now. I think it's profitable now. If it hits 100 million, then we'll probably see Now You See Me 3. But other than that, the weekend, it was what it was. Also, Me Before You. I guess it's notable because it's the big romantic comedy. Spoiler alert, somebody dies. It's really sad. I was just talking about A Walk to Remember today. It's literally a version of A Walk to Remember. It's got a sad song by Imagine Dragons. And, it's generally held up pretty well in its third week of release. $20 million budget, being one of the few romance movies this summer. And for all you fun people, Zootopia just finished inside the top 15, despite it being out on DVD and Blu-ray for the second week. By the way, I finally saw Zootopia, and it was outstanding. So that is your box office beat. You're not missing much unless you saw Finding Dory and Central Intelligence, in which case you saw pretty much every movie this weekend.
Yeah. Wow, you did good with that. You did really good with that.
I know. I usually when you put me on situations like that and I have the information on me, I'm usually awesome. Can we move on because there's no need to talk about them?
Right. Well, I'm just gonna wrap up by saying it was a very top heavy weekend. For all the crap that X-Men and Alice Through the Looking Glass got, they are profitable thanks, especially to their international growth. Even though X-Men did still okay over here. Same thing with Warcraft. And I mean, this is going to be a summer where a lot of the big movies probably are saved by their international growth. This is going to be it's going to be like a couple years ago. It's just the way it is. Some movies transcend it. Captain America, Finding Dory, Central Intelligence. Like some movies transcended it. Some movies didn't. And we'll see how Turtles ends up. I think it's going to end up being a problem for that franchise. But yeah, the holdovers outside. I mean, The Conjuring, the drop was expected, 63%. That's what happens to those kind of movies. And so if it held about as expected, Now You See Me 2, you're not upset about where it held. It's doing well enough. They already agreed with the third movie. They're going to do the third movie no matter what. So there's nothing else there to really go at. It was just about the 2 new releases, really, if you think about it. And then as you look ahead to this coming weekend, This is a weekend that's a very hard weekend to predict. For and not in terms of what's going to win the weekend, because I think, well, okay, maybe in terms of who's going to win the weekend. That's one part of it. The second part of it's going to be is what the biggest new release does as far as how it grosses, because this. And that big new release, let's just get this out of the way, is Independence Day Resurgence from Fox. Sci-fi adventure opening in 3,900 theaters. The sequel to the 1995 film, 1996 film, pardon me, from Roland Emmerich, this time starring once again, well, okay, Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman and Vivica A. Fox are back, along with Brett Spiner. You also got Jesse Usher, Sela Ward, Michael Monroe, and Liam Hemsworth all back. Judd Hirsch all casted as well. Judd Hirsch also back. Again, I mentioned this last week, and I'm just going to be very short about this. This could either be Jurassic World, or maybe a little under, or do what Jurassic World did and have a huge weekend. Maybe not quite as huge, but huge. Or it could be Terminator, do what the previous Terminator movie did, which is completely flop. I don't know if international gross could save this one if it flops domestically. I don't. I don't. This is something that has taken way too long to make. You don't have Will Smith, and a lot of people are upset about that. I don't know how to receive this. My take on it is I look at this and go low end. I think it could make about $60 to $70 million. You know, and again, putting it out a week before 4th of July, they're obviously hoping it gets a little bit of attention before the 4th of July releases next weekend. I'm thinking 60 to 70 million. If it does better than that, they're in good shape. If it does worse than that, they're in horrible shape. Because it's a big budget. Well, I think it's over $200 million budget. There is the chance that Finding Dory holds strong enough to beat it. If it exceeds 60 to 70 million in its opening weekend, Independence Day will be number one. If it doesn't, if it's around 60 to 70 million or lower, Finding Dory is going to be the number one box office champion this weekend again. That's the way I envision it. Because Finding Dory is probably going to be right around that $60 million mark, whether it's high end or a little lower. And of course, what Independence Day does will define that. The second biggest release of this weekend is a movie called The Shallows. It's a horror film, Sony Columbia, opening in 2,800 theaters. I do not expect a lot from this movie. It will not. It's a $17 million budget, so clearly they don't. Blake Lively stars in this film. I'm thinking about 14, 15 million if they're lucky. It's PG-13, 14, 15 million if it's lucky. So you're looking at Independence Day or Finding Dory in first, and then whoever one's not in first will be in second, and the huge drop off. You'll probably have The Shallows. Actually, Central Intelligence will probably take third. They'll probably have about 16, 17 million. Then The Shallows, maybe around 14, 15. They'll probably be close, Central Intelligence and Shallows. And then after that, you have the Free State of Jones, an action drama from STX Entertainment, opening in 2,600 theaters, R-rated, starring Matthew McConaughey and Kerry Russell. Wrong time of year for this movie. You know, these you do these period dramas or these movies that are very much the kind of movies that get the awards, but these kind of movies, the earliest they should come out are mid-August. Okay. You know, there has been this trend in recent years to release movies like this in August. I don't mind doing it then because there's been some success there, but doing it in middle of June during the summer box office, in the thick of the summer box office, is horrible. If it makes $12 million, it should be lucky. I'm thinking around 10 million. And then after that, you have another film that's opening in wide release, brought from Broad Green Pictures, a Neon Demon. It's a horror thriller. Sorry, Elle Fanning, Bella Heathcote, Christina Hendricks, Jenna Malone, and Keanu Reeves. Pretty good cast. Nicholas Winding Refn is directing it. R-rated. It has a little bit of anticipation and buzz, but I don't see it breaking 10 million. I'm thinking maybe around 7 or 8. And that's the way I see it turning out. And then you got your other holdovers, which all should be below 10 million. All of them, because they were under 10 million last week. You'll probably see The Conjuring around 7 million. Now You See Me around 5. Warcraft around 5. X-Men Apocalypse under 5, along with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's the way I see this weekend turning out. Mike, anything else to add?
No.
Okay. So we move on from the box office. Next week we will be previewing the big 4th of July weekend. We'll see if it follows the pattern of the last few years. What happened with Memorial Day weekend? What would happen again for 4th of July? We'll see. We'll be looking at the BFG, Legend of Tarzan, which I think is going to be the biggest flop of the summer. That's just my theory. And the Purge election year. Those are your 4th of July films. We'll be previewing those next week. All right, so from movies, we go to TV. I don't have any TV highlights this week. I haven't gotten a chance to watch anything this week other than Person of Interest, which my co-host will probably mention. I think I mentioned Preacher on last week, so I don't have to mention that now. And I haven't watched any new Preacher episodes since last week, so I don't have anything else to add. So I'll just defer to my co-host because I really, outside of sports and wrestling, I didn't watch anything else. So, Mike, go ahead. Any TV highlights?
Yeah, actually there is, believe it or not. Other than Persons of Interest, was previous episode .exe, which is stayed for an executable command, because it's all about Finch trying to release Ice 9, which would destroy Samaritan with the added expense of his machine. His machine would be destroyed by the Ice 9 as well. Don't mean to spoil that plot point. People die. Bad guys mostly. None of the good guys die. This time around. .exe was a great prelude to a finale, because what they're setting up tonight, I can only imagine to be. My nerves are a bit wrecked waiting for the episode tonight, which is called Return Zero, which means return to the beginning. So I am looking forward to this episode of Person of Interest. The previous episode was a must-watch. It was essential. It was brilliant. However, that was not the only series finale. That was not the only series finale that aired this week for shows that I liked. Vicious, which was the British comedy starring Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi. Jacobi. And Ion Rowan from Game of Thrones, and Francis De La Cour. That had its series finale on Sunday here in the States. It got 2 seasons, or series in the British thing, a Christmas special, a wedding special, and now a series finale. It was given 45 minutes instead of the usual half hour. I want to say the show is usually a half hour, but I actually think it's usually 45 minutes. It was funny. It was vicious. The insults were there. It was everything you could have hoped for. Vicious was a very, very funny show. Like my webcam looks like I don't know if I'm moving on your webcam, but on my webcam, I'm not, and I look like I'm half asleep. And that's the G-rated version of what I'm about to say. The Vicious was really, really good. It's a great series. You can find it all online. There it is. Everything just reset, and I don't no longer look like I'm having just a moment of something. But Vicious was a great show. Really funny. Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi were outstanding. Unfortunately, it came to an end. Both actors are super busy, so I understand why. But that one was sad. That one was a bit rough. Person of Interest is probably going to be rougher. Hopefully, none of my guys die in that one. But Vicious, or in Britain, it could also be known as Vicious Old Queens. It's worth a watch, man. And now the whole series is out. Go watch it. It's good stuff. Brilliant series. Ended before its time, but understandably so. Great show.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Now, okay, so we move on from entertainment. Now we're going to go to World Wrestling Entertainment, which has had an interesting couple days. First of all, we go from a Money in the Bank pay-per-view on Sunday which featured a tag team. Started with a tag team match that was a complete and utter mess. Poor Luke Gallows. Complete and utter mess. But ended up having one of the better endings, despite, you know, a great ladder match with a great. You had the Cena Styles match before, which was a great match, crappy ending, but we all seen it coming. You knew that Cena wasn't going to be pinned clean. And then you get the great ladder match, and then you get the Rollins Reigns match, which was very, very good, including, which I'm sure Mike will mention, the great what was it, the counter into the pedigree in the corner there, which was just awesome. And
where he just it was brilliant.
And then you get the ending, where you get Reigns being pinned clean, basically, for the first time. I think we know why now. And then you get the great storytelling moment of Ambrose finally getting his revenge on Seth Rollins, hitting him with the briefcase, get him from behind, which I think is a cool thing to do. And then Dirty Deeds and Dean Ambrose becomes the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Then you get to Raw last night. And they set up, a match with Rollins and Reigns. They set up this, and then basically they don't have a winner. And they set up the Shield triple threat because Ambrose wants to face both of them. Or he just wants to fight both of them, and then Shane McMahon goes, okay, we'll just do a triple threat. In addition to that, they furthered the Natalya heel turn, which I guess was supposed to be Becky turning heel, but they decided to do Natalya instead. And there's all this rumors about Natalya leaving, which, Mike, I know you and me talked about that. It was rumors for a couple months that a top tier diva might leave, and I was saying that I thought it might be Natalya. Yeah. So it's looking like it might be Natalya. So
she's putting somebody over on the way out, essentially.
Yeah. So it made more sense to turn her heel and try to get Becky over. I guess that makes sense. Okay, that's a cool development and all, but really all the focus is on the Shield. And now you get this triple threat. We're continuing Cena Styles. They introduced the Wyatt.
And Owens and Zayn.
And Owens Zayn, which I guess they're going to get one more match together, at least one more match for the time being. We brought the Wyatts back last night and started this really strange feud with the New Day where it looks like Xavier Woods going to get brainwashed. So there's some interesting things going on. What'd you say, Mike?
No, nothing.
And so there's some interesting things going on, but the focus is on the Shield. And we're finally going to get this Shield triple threat. A lot of people are wondering, well, wait, they're doing it at Battleground? Why are they doing it at Battleground? Well, before we get to the obvious Roman Reigns thing, let's just point this out. WWE is trying to put more emphasis on every one of their pay-per-views. They're not trying to save things for the big four anymore because, number one, with all the injuries, they can't afford to do that anymore. And number two, I think they're really trying to build value. They don't want people just looking at every pay-per-view and go, wow, I can skip that one because it's filler. They're trying to build value to every pay-per-view. And the other thing, too, is this. I think we know Brock Lesnar is going to be at SummerSlam. We know that Brock Lesnar is likely going to main event SummerSlam because of him coming off the UFC thing. Who knows what their plans are for SummerSlam? Maybe they go to Triple H Rollins. Maybe they go to Reigns Brock again. There's all these things out there. We don't know. There's probably, and plus you got the brand split and the draft, which is right around. I think the draft is right before Battleground or right after it. And then you got the brand split. So I think that their feeling is that if they end up splitting these guys up, this is their for last chance for a while they can do this before the split up, before the brand split and everything. So there's a couple of reasons why I think they're doing it. I don't have an issue with it. I mean, look, the idea was for them to do it at this past WrestleMania, and they couldn't do it. There was too many injuries. If you wait around if you wait around for the big four, you could end up with a situation like you did last year where somebody's injured and you can't do it, and then eventually it just loses its luster. So, but now let's talk about the big news from today, which puts a whole wrinkle in this and maybe makes some sense as to why everything went down the way it did. Not necessarily the triple threat itself, because I think that's where we were going, whether Ambrose won the case or not. And Rollins might have still won the championship, but he probably wouldn't have pinned Roman Reigns clean in the match if what has happened didn't happen. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, we can credit him with this because he's been reporting it since it happened, has stated that WWE knew about Roman Reigns' test results before Money in the Bank. Which means that this probably played a big role. And if you follow the odds that always come out before the pay-per-view, Reigns was a huge favorite going into Sunday, and all of a sudden Rollins became a huge favorite. Well, it's very likely is that Reigns was going to hold the title and Ambrose was going to interfere and cause a triple threat. Instead, obviously Ambrose wins the briefcase. They decided that they have Rollins pin Reigns clean, and then Ambrose cashes in. So did this change direction for WWE? Oh yeah. Now, Roman Reigns is suspended for 30 days. We do not know what caused the test result. We don't know what he was on or whatever it is that sparked this. We do not know. We know he is suspended for 30 days. He will be eligible to return the Thursday before Battleground. Now, that means he could still be in the triple threat. Obviously, WWE still plans to do the triple threat because if they knew before Money in the Bank about this, then why do what they did last night and set up? They could have just had Rollins beat Reigns again and run him off TV and just have Rollins versus Ambrose at Battleground. But they didn't do that. So obviously they're planning on going forward with this triple threat match. But here's the thing. Roman Reigns is not on any TV before the pay-per-view. Because like I said, he's eligible to return the Thursday before Battleground. And SmackDown would have been taped. And I think that's what. And actually, SmackDown will be live that week. It'll be his first live SmackDown. He will miss the WWE draft. He'll miss all TV prior to Battleground. Now, obviously, Roman Reigns missed a lot of the WrestleMania build-up for his match with Triple H. So it's not like they've never done this before. And you have Ambrose and Rollins there, but still, it's going to hurt the build of the match. And you have to question why WWE would do this knowing about this. I think it's a dumb decision, but clearly they're going to go ahead with the match. The thing I think we can say is this. If there was a plan for Roman Reigns to get the title back, and I kind of think there might have been, he's not getting it back now. Because this is a PR disaster for WWE if he does. This was covered by ESPN, by every major media outlet. And it got out. They made a statement about it. Reigns' apology was in the press release. He owned it, which I give him credit for. There's no way around this. He did it. And every media outlet has it. And Vince is not going to want... I mean, the crowd's already on Roman Reigns. They're going to be on him even more now. It's going to be like an A-Rod kind of situation. You do not want to put the title back on him that quickly. A lot of people are comparing this to what happened with Randy Orton in the past. I think what's going to happen is they do the match. Either Ambrose or Rollins wins. We see where they go for SummerSlam. Reigns will probably still get a high-profile match at SummerSlam, but he won't be in a title match at SummerSlam. I don't think Reigns will see the title until at the earliest Survivor Series because you got to wait for this to blow over. And I do think he'll get another title reign, obviously. But I just don't think it's going to be right now. Because, again, for everybody that thinks, oh, Vince McMahon loves Roman Reigns, this ain't going to make a difference. Maybe not in the long term, but for right now, you got to imagine he's probably very upset about this. He's not going to want the bad PR. He'll make it worse. He puts the title on him right away, right out of suspension. Because what kind of message that could send to the locker room if he does that? Think about the message it sends to the locker room. Think about the message it sends to the media. Think about the PR issues it's going to have if they do that. So you can do the match, for better or worse, but he can't win the title. He can't. Or you just create yourself an even bigger problem, and he will never recover from that with the fans. Never. He will never recover from it. Mike, your thoughts on the Money in the Bank, the Raw, the Roman Reigns suspension, the whole interesting web of story here.
Let me start by saying I really wanted Kevin Owens to win and was very disappointed when he didn't. Mm-hmm. Extraordinarily disappointed when he didn't. No, look. God, my shoulder hurts. This has been a weird couple of days for WWE. Their big face in waiting, Roman Reigns, gets suspended for 30 days. For what? We don't know. Something. He got suspended for something. He got suspended for something pretty big because he violated the wellness. So in a way, it was really, really smart that they took the title off of him last night. And in a span of 5 minutes, all 3 members of the Shield held the title. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I think it was a cool moment because it was a long time coming too. Dean Ambrose finally gets the case, coming all the way around from 2 years ago when Rollins had the case. Was it 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years. All the way around from when Rollins had the case, backstabbed the Shield, beat Roman Reigns, and it kind of finishes that aspect of the story, because in the end, Ambrose gets his big revenge on Seth Rollins by doing the one thing that hurts Rollins the most, which is take the championship, the world title from him. It's ridiculous. It almost fell into their laps how easy that storytelling was. Mm-hmm. And the moment Ambrose won the case, we knew he wouldn't have a very long road with it. He wasn't going to hold it for a long time. If it was Owens, he probably would have held it for a little bit. Or at least until, if Rollins wasn't going to win, at least until today.
Right.
He would have been champion probably today. But the pay-per-view was good. Wasn't super great. I'm not going to analyze it for super long. You could find the analysis elsewhere. The Becky Lynch stuff was interesting. You're finally developing like a feud outside of Charlotte. I don't know when they're going to finally pull the trigger on Becky. I really don't, because she's the best pure face in the division. Sasha Banks is a tweener who gets a big face pop. She's a tweener. Paige, last night was, you know what's funny? Let me just kind of veer off right here real quick. The last couple nights have been absolutely horrendous with botches and just miscommunications and mistimings and all that nonsense. Like from the fatal 4-way tag match with friggin' Luke Gallows just staring at Big E, holding his partner, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you. I'm gonna kick you. Nope, Big Cass is in the ring. Let me kick him first." And then to Dana Brooke, just totally missing the rope twice with Charlotte's leg, not remembering that if Charlotte's foot is underneath the rope, it also counts as a rope break. Instead, she held Charlotte's foot there, and the referee had to just pretend that he didn't see Dana Brooke. That should have been a disqualification. Should have been a disqualification. And he's like, "No, I'm going to send you back. I should have disqualified Charlotte, but I'm going to send you back." It's like the refereeing kind of just looks... There are times when these newer referees look crappy. Is it just me? Or are these times that these newer referees just look incompetent? Which is something you don't see from like the veteran guys like Charles Robinson or Mike Chioda. You know?
Right.
When they look incompetent, there's a big storyline reason. When some of these new guys look incompetent, it's like, hey, we don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
But that being said, and just it was a lot of those things were off last night. It was totally off. The Money in the Bank match was good itself. Rusev's always good for a laugh. And a ass kicking, apparently. Poor Titus. And they continued the story, too, so we're probably going to get another Rusev-Titus match because there's really nothing for either of them to do. I guess we got to wait till Darren Young is great again or that story continues. But it was, in the end, it was all about the Shield. It was all about the Shield. Although I will say, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens just assaulting each other, I thought was one of the coolest moments of Raw. Just assaulting each other. It was like one of the most organic moments, and it kind of kept it more interesting. But I feel like, and here's what I think could happen. And I'll get to that really quickly after this. It was all about the Shield. I understand why they kept Roman Reigns in the match. He's not going to be near the championship anytime soon. They're not going to put the title back on Roman Reigns. If they do, they are just blind, deaf, and dumb. There's absolutely no reason to put the title on Roman Reigns at this point in time. You can't be near it. You can't even sniff it. This should be his last shot for a while. And so the feud will continue. I think it'll just evolve into Rollins versus Ambrose, which I think will evolve into one of those two guys versus Owens. And I'm really, really hoping that's true, because name the other heel that's over as much as Kevin Owens is. That's right, none of them. Because I thought by summer you had to get the belt on Owens, and you're not. So I think they push that timeline back for fall. So by fall, I think you're going to see Kevin Owens get he's going to be a world champion on either brand. He has to be a world champion on either brand.
Yeah.
And because I think the SmackDown champion will probably be AJ Styles. I think it'll just probably be AJ Styles. The match was good. The stipulation was the way they broke it was dumb. It's like, oh, AJ didn't know. Sure, AJ didn't know. But the way they played it off last night was well done. Cena was Cena. So I don't know what happens. I hope for good things.
I think the one thing is go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I was saying, and Roman's gone for 30 days, so they got to build a triple threat without him. That's all.
It's going to be fascinating to see who ends. I actually think that Ambrose will probably end up retaining now.
Yep.
Because I think they want to run with. I think they want to have a face go into SummerSlam with the title. So I think Ambrose is going to retain. The question is going to be: does Roman get pinned again, or is it Rollins? I kind of think if they're doing this now, that kind of makes me think that Rollins is facing Triple H. That kind of makes me think that. So I think Triple H is going to screw Seth Rollins, and then Ambrose will pin Rollins. Which means we'd probably get a different feud for the title at SummerSlam. Now, a lot of people think that Brock might be in the WWE title match at SummerSlam. Does that mean you get Ambrose versus Brock again? That's why a lot of people thought Reigns was going to get the title back. They thought they'd see Reigns Brock 2 at SummerSlam. I don't think they're going to.
Not happening now.
I don't think you're going to see Ambrose versus Brock again. Not after what happened.
No, you can't.
You can't run it. But you could always, and I'm not just throwing this out here because of you, even though it might seem like I am, but I'm not. Ambrose and Owens have been in each other's orbit for the better part of a year. You are in Brooklyn. It looks like this Sami Zayn Owens thing is going to last one more pay-per-view. Owens is available, and if you burn off the Shield stuff at Battleground, if Ambrose retains, he might need an opponent. Your best bet's probably to run Ambrose versus Owens in SummerSlam. Just a thought. I mean, that just seems like you're not going to run Jericho again. So to me, if they're not running Brock versus Ambrose again, which I don't think they can do after what happened at Mania, and I don't think they'll run Ambrose and Rollins another time. They've run that match how many times? I don't think they'll run it again at SummerSlam. So I honestly think you probably look, unless they do a multiple guy match or something, I honestly think you're looking at Ambrose versus Owens at SummerSlam. That's just my theory. Unless they decide that they want to do the Shield triple threat again at SummerSlam, and keep Reigns around there. But I don't see how you can do that for a second straight match. I mean, I don't think, even if Vince is very upset with Roman Reigns, I don't think he's going to accept Roman Reigns continuing to lose matches while near the title. You get it over with at the triple threat at Battleground. You move Reigns away from the title for a little bit and then put him back there when he's going to win again. That's what I think. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting month in the WWE, that's for sure. All right. We got through everything. That's it. We are done. As always, the show might be over. Does that mean you have to stop interacting or contributing to our show? You can continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show and the schedule of the show, comments, reactions, things we said on the show, topics we talked about, suggestions on is there any topics or breaking news items out there that you want to make sure we cover. You can send those in as long as they're related to sports, entertainment, and wrestling. All these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411, hashtag its5. That one, of course, for our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. Or feel free to create your own hashtag, depending on what you're talking about. It could be hashtag ITS wrestling, hashtag ITS basketball, hashtag ITS movies. Whatever you want to do, just be, you can be creative, have fun. Just don't be disrespectful, insulting, or, you know, just or offensive. That's all we ask. You can have fun, but just keep it, you know, clean and non-offensive. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show, especially as it relates to scheduling. If there's any last-minute postponements or delays, that's the best way for us to reach you all and let you know of those things. If you'd like to keep up with our show or look back at old episodes, you have a couple of ways for us to do that. If you're somebody that likes the streaming, streaming, if you like seeing us on screen, if you're only interested in our Google Plus or YouTube episode, which is our more recent content, everything from mid-October all the way up until tonight's episode, then you probably want to check us out on Google Plus and YouTube if any of that applies to you. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus or YouTube. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411 and you go either Google Plus or YouTube, and you'll have access to our channels on both sites and access to every episode we've had from mid-October when we debuted here on Google Plus and YouTube, all the way up into tonight's episode. They're all on there. If you missed an episode or part of an episode, or want to look back at an episode from that time period, whatever the case may be. And again, if you prefer streaming us instead of listening to us, then if any of that applies to you, feel free to check us out on Google Plus and YouTube. You can also check us out on our main host sites, which are Podbean and iTunes. If you prefer to listen to us, you can find audio versions of all of our episodes. This is every episode we've ever done, from our Blog Talk Radio days, our Talk Show days, Libs, and everything. Everything we've done from October 2010 all the way up until tonight. All of our Google Plus YouTube episodes transferred into audio format. Every episode we've ever done available to you on Podbean and iTunes. They're all in order from the most recent episode, which will be tonight's, all the way up to the oldest, which will be all the way from October 2010. They're all on there in audio format for you. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Podbean or iTunes. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411 on either Podbean or iTunes, and you'll have access to our show pages on both sites and access to every one of those episodes. So if you're a longtime fan that wants to look back at classic shows from way back when, or you know, even a new fan that wants to look back at those classic episodes, or maybe you're just looking for recent episodes or any episode you might be looking for, whether you missed an episode, want to look back at episodes, whatever the case would be, or just listen to us on the go, you can also find us, again, on Podbean and iTunes. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes, 4 ways which you can keep up with our show, look back at old episodes, whatever you wish. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It's really time for bed.
I want to thank myself for another great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and your contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching, and to those that will be listening later as well, thank you to you as well. That is it for this week, our only show of this week. Again, we are preempted on Thursday for the NBA draft. There will be no show. Our next show will be a week from tonight, which is June the 28th. At 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Plus and YouTube, a sports, entertainment, wrestling combo show. We'll discuss, from a wrestling standpoint, any wrestling headlines we have to cover, we'll cover, and follow up from Monday Night Raw, entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights, sports. We'll do our post-NBA draft reactions and coverage, any other sports headlines we have to cover. All that will be on next Tuesday's show. And again, that will be our only show of next week. And the week after, we're also preempted as well. So next Tuesday will be our last show for about 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. And next week's show will be coming at you from a new location as I move into my new house. So that'll be interesting. You get a new setup, maybe. So keep that in mind. So that'll be interesting for you all next week. So that's the lay of the land for the next couple of weeks. So I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here for our next show, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Plus and YouTube a week from tonight, which will be Tuesday, June the 28th. Broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Plus and YouTube at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a good night, everybody.